You woke up today in a body that was not the same as yesterday's. Not symbolically, biologically. Somewhere beneath the visible rhythm of your breath, new proteins have folded, new neurons have linked, new molecular architectures have come into being. And all of this, the silent choreography of your cells, was scripted not merely by your genes or your environment, but by something far less tangible, an emotion you sustained. The ancient mystics once said, "Feeling is the substance of creation." Modern biology has begun to whisper the same truth, only now in the language of receptors, genes, and neuropeptides. You are not simply a passenger within your physiology. You are the composer, the observer, the silent architect performing a symphony in molecular code every time you feel. We tend to believe emotions come after events, that we react to what happens. But what if emotion is not the echo of reality, but the cause of it? What if your sadness, your hope, your fear, your awe are not psychological decorations, but biological commands, quantum-level instructions whispering to the fabric of your body, "Build this." Every second, trillions of quantum events pulse within you. Electrons vanish and reappear. Photons leap between molecular bonds. Your DNA hums with probability, not certainty, a shimmering field of potential. And in that invisible field, your sustained emotional tone acts as a constant observer, collapsing possibility into matter. This is not metaphor. It is the hidden law the mystics foresaw and the physicists are just beginning to name. Ancient Hermeticism declared, "All is mind." The Upanishads echoed, "As a man thinketh, so he becomes." But the truth runs deeper than thought. It begins in feeling. Thought creates structure. Emotion animates it. Every time you return to a familiar emotional pattern, worry, gratitude, resentment, love, you are literally rewriting quantum code. You are not imagining change. You are performing measurement upon your own molecular universe. Look closer and you'll notice each emotion has a texture in the body. Fear tightens the chest. Peace widens the breath. Love softens the skin. These sensations are not poetic metaphors. They are the biological signatures of the frequencies you are broadcasting. They are evidence that your consciousness and your chemistry are not two things. They are one seamless field, rippling through different octaves of reality. And just as light behaves as both wave and particle, so too do you. You exist as probability until you feel. Then, through emotion, you crystallize into form, a unique configuration of energy temporarily called you. The moment you sustain an emotion, you perform an act of creation. The universe doesn't wait for your words. It listens to your vibration. Each feeling is an instruction, each mood a sculptor's hand upon the invisible clay of matter. What this law reveals is disarming in its simplicity. You are not the result of what happens to you. You are the result of how you continue to feel about what happens. Every day, every sustained emotion, every tone of being is programming your biology and bending probability into the shape of your dominant feeling. This is not philosophy alone. It is quantum physiology. Your emotions are not private storms in the psyche. They are forces of measurement collapsing the probabilities of your inner universe into the certainties of flesh. And somewhere within this astonishing realization lies both the great responsibility and the great freedom of being alive. Because if emotion turns into matter, then you, right now, are creating yourself. The core premise, the law of emotional matter. Imagine for a moment that every emotion you have ever felt, from the brief spark of curiosity to the long shadow of grief, has left a signature somewhere inside your biology. Not just as a memory or a chemical residue, but as an instruction. A command written in the living language of energy and molecule. Build this pattern. Maintain this frequency. Become this emotion in form. What we call feeling is not a soft, abstract process. It is the most direct translation between consciousness and matter. Each emotion you sustain acts as a carrier wave, a vibrational blueprint that your body decodes into biological architecture. When you live in anxiety, your cells build the architecture of vigilance. When you live in gratitude, your cells build the architecture of coherence. It is as if emotion itself were the software that tells your biology how to run. This is the hidden quantum law. Emotion is observation, and observation becomes matter. Every sustained emotional state functions as a quantum measurement upon the field of your body. It determines which potential configurations of atoms and molecules will stabilize into reality. The molecules in your blood, the receptors on your cells, the hormones in your glands, all are being updated in real time by the frequencies you continue to feel. In the language of biology, this is gene expression. In the language of quantum physics, it is wave collapse. And in the language of the soul, it is creation. Most of us never see the link because the translation between emotion and matter happens slowly, invisibly. You feel stressed today, and 3 weeks later, your immune system weakens. You sustain joy, and over time your heart rhythm changes. Your DNA expression shifts toward healing and repair. The delay conceals the connection. It makes emotion seem ephemeral when in fact it is the most consistent creative act you perform. To understand this law, we must abandon the idea that matter is solid and consciousness is vague. The truth is reversed. Consciousness is the constant. Matter is the echo. Your physical body is not a static object. It is a quantum event, continuously materializing from your emotional field. You are collapsing your own wave function, moment by moment, through the feelings you choose or unconsciously sustain as your baseline. This means every thought you repeat with emotional charge becomes an instruction to the universe of your cells. The phrase, "I am afraid," is not a psychological statement. It is an energetic command. The moment you invest that thought with feeling, you broadcast a frequency that your biology hears as prepare for threat. Gene pathways open, hormones adjust, proteins fold differently. The emotion writes itself into molecular form, but the opposite is also true. When you hold the vibration of care, gratitude, or peace, the body begins to harmonize around that signal. Cells release restorative chemicals. Neural networks strengthen. Coherence emerges across systems. This isn't the metaphor of mind-body connection. It is the mechanics of mind-body unity. Across time, mystics and scientists have both brushed against this realization. Tesla called emotion the real resonance of the field. Einstein described reality as frozen light. Rumi wrote, "What you feel becomes your prayer, and the prayer becomes your flesh." Each, in their own tongue, described the same process: consciousness feeling itself into form. To live by this law is to become intimate with your creative power. To see your emotions not as moods to manage, but as molecular architects shaping every structure of your being. It means understanding that the state you dwell in most consistently is not just a mood, it is your frequency of creation. And so the question turns inward. What emotion have you been building yourself from? What invisible architecture of chemistry and vibration are you sustaining with your daily feeling? Because whether or not you believe this law, it is already operating. Your body is listening not to your words, but to the tone of your being. The scientific bridge, the quantum biology of feelings. Somewhere beneath the surface of awareness, a biochemical story unfolds. A language so ancient and precise that your body has been speaking it since before you were born. Each emotion you experience releases a specific molecular signature, a code that ripples through your bloodstream and settles into your cells like an instruction written in light. Neuroscientists once believed emotions lived only in the brain, abstract electrical storms in grey matter, but modern biology tells a different tale, one that reaches into the marrow of existence itself. Every emotion triggers a cascade that begins in the hypothalamus, where neuropeptides are synthesized and released into the bloodstream. These molecules are not just messengers, they are physical representations of feeling. When they bind to receptors on the surface of your cells, the emotion becomes tangible. The cell reads it like a script, altering its internal chemistry and even its genetic expression in response. This is not theoretical, it is psychoneuroimmunology, the study of how thought and feeling sculpt biology. When you sustain joy, your genes express proteins that enhance immune response and cellular repair. When you dwell in chronic fear, those same genes suppress, redirecting your energy towards survival. A single sustained emotion can alter thousands of biochemical processes in synchrony, a symphony directed by the silent conductor of consciousness. But beneath the biochemical lies something even more astonishing. The molecular structures involved: proteins, enzymes, strands of DNA, are not rigid machines. They are quantum instruments, operating in the realm of probability and coherence. The electrons within your DNA don't sit still. They shimmer in superposition, existing in multiple potential states until influenced by observation, until, in some mysterious way, they are seen. And here is where emotion reveals its true nature. Feeling, at its essence, is a form of observation. It is consciousness focusing upon itself, directing attention toward a particular vibrational field. In that moment of emotional awareness, the quantum wave collapses. Possibility becomes structure. Your feeling becomes flesh. Physicists like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have long suggested that consciousness interacts with quantum fields through microtubules in neurons, the infinitesimal scaffolding within your brain that hums at the threshold between physics and awareness. If that is true, then emotion as a focused frequency of consciousness could be the very mechanism by which the quantum probabilities of your molecular world choose which version of reality to crystallize into. In other words, when you feel love, you are not simply generating a chemical cascade, you are performing a quantum measurement. You are telling the subatomic orchestra of your body which pattern to play. The emotion of gratitude may favor coherence particles, aligning harmoniously, like instruments tuning to the same note. The emotion of resentment may favor dissonance, a fragmentation of frequencies, a loss of systemic harmony that biology later translates as inflammation, fatigue, or disease. The HeartMath Institute calls this state physiological coherence, when the electromagnetic rhythm of the heart synchronizes with the brain's wave patterns. In that harmony, information flows efficiently through the body, immune response improves, and intuition heightens. They have measured what mystics only intuited, that emotion has electromagnetic form, and coherence is the language through which the body recognizes wholeness. Quantum biology now whispers what sages declared millennia ago. You are not in your body is within your consciousness. Your cells are not blind automatons, they are participatory observers in a field of feeling. The sensations you interpret as emotion are the interface between awareness and form, between the wave and the particle, the unseen and the manifest. When you understand this, you begin to see that emotion is not a reaction at all. It is an act of creation. The same mechanism that gives rise to your joy gives rise to your bones. The same consciousness that shapes your thoughts shapes your cells. And what you sustain most, that steady hum beneath the noise of thought, becomes the signature the universe uses to sculpt the matter of you. You are not a victim of your biology. You are its author, writing reality in the ink of emotion, one molecular line at a time. Ancient parallels, the timeless teachings of energy and emotion. Long before microscopes, molecules, or equations, humanity sensed this law intuitively. The ancients didn't call it quantum biology. They called it the breath of the divine, prana, chi, pneuma, ruach. Words that pointed to the same invisible current, the living intelligence that animates matter and listens to the tone of the heart. For them, feeling wasn't a byproduct of experience. It was the sacred fire through which experience became real. In the Hermetic texts of Egypt, the universe was described as mental, born from the thought and emotion of the all. The principle was simple: as within, so without; as above, so below. Consciousness wasn't separate from matter, but its unseen cause. The heart, not the brain, was considered the throne of perception. Every emotion was a spell, every thought a vibration shaping the ether. They taught initiates that to master reality, one must master inner resonance. To change the outer world, one must refine the emotional field within. The Vedic sages of India mirrored this vision in their understanding of prana, the life force moving through the nadis and chakras. Each emotion altered the flow of this subtle current. Fear constricted it, love expanded it, compassion harmonized it. Yogic practices were never simply about posture or breath. They were technologies for stabilizing emotional frequency so the body could become coherent with spirit. The goal was not escape, but alignment, a physiology luminous enough to hold divine awareness. In Taoist alchemy, emotion was seen as raw energy that could either stagnate or transmute. The Taoists studied the organs as repositories of emotional vibration, the liver holding anger, the lungs grief, the heart joy. By breathing into these regions with awareness, they claimed one could transform emotional density into clarity, Jing into Qi, Qi into Shen, matter into light. They described the body as a cauldron where emotion, breath, and intention cooked together until consciousness refined itself into immortality. Gnostic philosophy later echoed these truths through the language of light and ignorance. They taught that the material world was not a prison, but a field of vibration shaped by awareness. The human task was to awaken the emotional intelligence of the soul, to feel with such purity that matter itself became transparent to spirit. They understood that liberation wasn't achieved by suppressing emotion, but by sanctifying it, allowing love, sorrow, awe, and wonder to become doorways back to the divine. Modern science, with all its tools, is only now catching up to what mystics experienced directly. The Upanishads said, "As is your desire, so is your will. As is your will, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny." Translated into quantum language, as is your sustained vibration, so is your biological reality. The emotional tone you cultivate becomes the probability pattern your body collapses into. When we align this ancient wisdom with the findings of quantum biology, the veil between mysticism and physics thins. The ancient temple and the modern laboratory are studying the same event through different senses, one through the heart, the other through the instrument. The Hermetic initiate meditated in candlelight, watching the flame flicker in unison with his breath, feeling how inner stillness altered outer movement. The physicist now observes the double-slit experiment and sees the same mystery. Observation changes the outcome. In both cases, consciousness is the hidden variable. The convergence is undeniable. The mystic and the scientist have been walking opposite sides of the same mountain, both climbing toward the summit, where emotion and matter merge. One calls it enlightenment, the other coherence. Both describe a state where separation dissolves and life recognizes itself as one continuous field. And perhaps that's what all the prophets, yogis, and sages meant when they said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." They weren't speaking metaphorically. They were pointing to the quantum truth that the architecture of paradise is built molecule by molecule from the emotions you sustain. Heaven or hell is not a place, it is a frequency, and the frequency is yours to choose. Human reflection, the emotional mirror of everyday life. We live our lives believing emotion is fleeting, a temporary storm, a private weather system that comes and goes without lasting consequence. But the truth is more intimate, more consequential. Each feeling you repeat carves the grooves of your future self. Every moment of irritation or compassion becomes an instruction that echoes through your cells, shaping who you will be tomorrow. The body is the diary of the soul. It records what you feel more faithfully than what you think. When you wake in the morning and feel the weight of anxiety before your first conscious thought, that sensation is not random. It is yesterday's emotion, crystallized into chemistry, waiting for you to notice it. The subtle tension in your chest, the restlessness behind your eyes, the fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to dissolve, these are not merely symptoms of a busy life. They are memories written in molecular language, the physical evidence of emotions long sustained. Most people try to escape these sensations through distraction, caffeine, screens, constant motion, but escape only deepens the imprint. Emotion unacknowledged does not disappear. It hides, looping quietly in the background, feeding the patterns that keep rebuilding your biology. The emotion you resist becomes the architecture you inhabit. The emotion you accept becomes the energy that liberates. This is why awareness matters more than control. To manage emotions is to treat them as enemies to be subdued. To feel them fully is to witness the field of creation at work. When you sit with sadness without judgment, you allow your consciousness to perform a new kind of observation, one that transforms rather than suppresses. The molecules that once encoded pain begin to shift. Tension dissolves, coherence returns. The same field that builds fear can rebuild freedom if you meet it with presence instead of resistance. In relationships, this law becomes even more visible. Every interaction is a meeting of electromagnetic fields, two quantum systems exchanging information through emotion. The unspoken tension between people is measurable. It changes heart rhythms, breathing patterns, even the synchronization of brain waves. Love is not metaphorically contagious, it is literally resonant. When two people share genuine affection, their heart fields entrain, producing coherence detectable several feet beyond their bodies. The invisible becomes physiological reality. So when you hold resentment, you are not just storing poison within, you are transmitting discord into the shared field of every connection. The energy you sustain becomes the environment others must navigate. And when you cultivate peace, the coherence radiates outward. You become a stabilizing force in the emotional ecosystem of humanity. The ripple effect is not mystical poetry. It is quantum biology on a collective scale. Consider how this law unfolds in ordinary life. A parent's quiet anxiety passes wordlessly to a child who learns to breathe in the same shallow rhythm. A community soaked in fear shapes bodies that age too quickly. But likewise, a teacher who lives in curiosity awakens that same neurochemical signature in her students. A stranger's genuine smile regulates your vagus nerve before your mind can interpret it. Every act of emotion is an act of transmission. Every heartbeat is a broadcast. And yet, the miracle remains this. Change begins the moment you notice. Awareness collapses the old pattern. When you truly see how an emotion feels in your body, its texture, its color, its weight, you stop being its victim and become its observer. And as quantum law suggests, The observer transforms what is observed. Your simple awareness begins to reprogram molecular reality. This is what the sages meant by presence and what modern neuroscience calls neuroplasticity. The present moment is not just psychological refuge. It is the workshop where new emotional matter is forged. Every breath, every pause, every honest encounter with feeling rewrites the blueprint of your cells. To live consciously, then, is not to chase eternal positivity, but to participate in emotional creation with open eyes. To let feeling be felt, to let it move, to let it teach the body new coherence. For when you stop fighting your emotions, you discover what they've been trying to tell you all along. They were never obstacles to awakening, they were the materials of it. Emotional frequency. How feeling tunes the field. Every emotion carries a frequency, not metaphorically, but literally. The heart, brain, and nervous system emit measurable electromagnetic waves that fluctuate with emotional state. Fear tightens the wavelength, making it jagged and irregular. Love, gratitude, and compassion smooth it into harmonious coherence. These frequencies ripple outward, interacting with the quantum field that underlies all matter, the same unified sea of potential from which every atom, thought, and heartbeat arises. When your emotional tone shifts, so does your resonance with this field. You become like a tuning fork, either amplifying harmony or dissonance within the invisible architecture of reality. The HeartMath Institute has shown that emotions like appreciation produce a coherent heart rhythm, a smooth sine wave pattern that synchronizes brain waves, hormones, and cellular communication. This harmony allows the body to function as a single intelligent system rather than a collection of disconnected parts. In such moments, your physiology becomes an antenna tuned to the frequency of creation itself. In the quantum view, coherence isn't just health, it's alignment with the universal order. Physicist David Bohm called this the implicate order, a hidden, enfolded reality where everything is connected in unbroken wholeness. Emotion is how consciousness interacts with that order. The feeling of love, for example, aligns the microcosm of your body with the macrocosm of the field. You become a fractal expression of the whole, radiating a signal that tells the universe, I am in resonance with life. Incoherent emotion, fear, anger, resentment doesn't make you bad. It simply creates turbulence. Your internal electromagnetic field becomes chaotic, scattering information and breaking rhythm between systems. The body then reflects that chaos in chemistry, erratic hormones, inflammatory signals, disrupted immune function. The universe responds to dissonance not by punishment, but by feedback. It mirrors your vibration, so you can hear the frequency you're broadcasting. Ancient traditions understood this intuitively. The Hindu concept of rasa described emotion as the flavor of the soul, the vibration that colors your consciousness. In Taoist medicine, the organs were seen as musical notes within the body's symphony. Each emotion was a sound that could either harmonize or distort the melody. In both science and mysticism, the message remains the same. Your emotional frequency shapes the song the universe hears. When you sustain a feeling long enough, it becomes a carrier wave for intention. This is why short bursts of positivity rarely change anything. The field responds not to flashes of emotion, but to sustained resonance. A moment of gratitude is a spark. A life of gratitude is a signal. The longer a frequency endures, the deeper it imprints upon the quantum field. You are broadcasting continuously, and the matter of your life rearranges itself to match your dominant tone. This is why true transformation feels less like forcing and more like tuning. You don't need to manifest in the sense of demanding outcomes. You only need to become resonant with what you seek. To align emotionally with health, you generate the molecular conditions of vitality. To align with peace, you generate coherence across systems. The outer reality must follow, because it is built from the same frequency as the inner. Emotion, then, is not just energy in motion, it is information in formation. It tells the universe who you are, what you believe, and what reality you are prepared to receive. Each heartbeat, each thought charged with feeling, sends data into the field, and the field responds with synchronicity, a mirror held up to your vibration. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are resonant with, and you are resonant with what you consistently feel. The deep dive, the 7 layers of emotional creation. Emotion is not a single event, it is a multidimensional current flowing through 7 invisible layers of creation, each one shaping a different octave of your reality. From the faint pulse of sensation in the body to the vast field of cosmic intelligence beyond self, these layers reveal how consciousness transforms feeling into form. The first layer is sensation. Every emotion begins as a vibration, a tightening in the gut, a warmth in the chest, a tremor behind the eyes. This is emotion in its rawest form, pure frequency entering the nervous system. Most people stop here, labeling the sensation fear, joy, sadness, and reacting. But in truth, sensation is the body's first act of communication with the field. When you allow the vibration without judgment, the energy begins to move. Suppression traps it, presence liberates it. The second layer is meaning. The mind attaches a story to the sensation. I'm anxious because of work. I'm happy because of love. This story is how the mind tries to translate the unknown frequency, yet meaning is fluid. Change the story, and the emotion transforms. Modern psychology calls this reframing. Mysticism calls it alchemy. Both describe the same act, turning leaden fear into golden understanding by shifting perception. The third layer is expression. Once emotion has meaning, it seeks movement, tears, laughter, words, song. Expression is energy, exiting containment. When it's allowed, coherence forms. When it's repressed, incoherence accumulates. The heart, in this sense, is not a symbol of emotion. It's the instrument through which energy circulates. The electromagnetic field of the heart is the largest in the body, broadcasting your emotional state into the quantum field around you. The fourth layer is resonance. Emotion doesn't stay within you, it interacts with the environment. It shapes your tone of voice, your posture, the microfields of energy you emit. People can feel coherence without words. When your vibration harmonizes, others' systems entrain to it. The universe itself behaves this way. Resonance is its organizing principle. Planets, atoms, and relationships all align through sympathetic vibration. The fifth layer is creation. This is where emotion crosses the quantum threshold into matter. The sustained frequency of your feeling becomes an ongoing act of observation that influences which molecular possibilities stabilize in your body. Your organs, hormones, and neural circuits literally rebuild to match your most consistent vibration. You are sculpting yourself biologically and energetically in real time. The sixth layer is reflection. The outer world mirrors the dominant emotion you hold. Life presents people and events vibrating at a frequency that corresponds to your internal state. This is not punishment, it's feedback from the field, guiding you toward coherence. Every conflict, every moment of grace is the universe saying, this is what you are broadcasting. And the seventh layer is union. Beyond all feeling and thought lies the quiet, knowing that every emotion is consciousness exploring itself. Joy and sorrow, fear and love, all are movements of the same field, waves returning to the ocean of awareness. When you reach this layer, you no longer try to fix emotion. You allow it to unfold, to inform, to dissolve. In that surrender, emotion ceases to bind you, it becomes light. This is the alchemy of the soul. Sensation becoming awareness, awareness becoming creation, creation returning to source. You are not the emotion. You are the intelligence that gives it form and the stillness into which it finally disappears. Collapse of separation, the unified field within. There comes a moment in the journey when you stop chasing alignment because you realize you were never misaligned to begin with. The same intelligence that animates galaxies is breathing through your chest, moving through your emotions, sculpting your thoughts. The distinction between the inner and outer world begins to dissolve, and what's left is a single, luminous awareness. There is no separation, there never was. Science calls this unity the quantum field. Mystics call it the divine mind, but both are describing the same ocean, infinite potential, condensed into momentary form. Your emotions, once believed to be personal and private, are simply localized ripples within this sea. They appear to belong to you, but they are the universe feeling itself through your nervous system. Fear and love, despair and joy are not opposites but polarities of one current, the expansion and contraction of consciousness as it explores itself in time. When you sustain an emotion, you are not generating energy from nothing. You are drawing from this collective field and shaping it into a particular pattern. The field doesn't discriminate. It doesn't judge anger or compassion. It simply amplifies the vibration you offer. Like water poured into a mold, it takes the form of your sustained frequency. In that sense, every human is a sculptor, each heartbeat a measurement, each emotion a creative act that reshapes the very matter of existence. Modern physics affirms this truth in its own language. The observer and the observed are not separate. They are two perspectives of the same event. David Bohm wrote that the apparent division between matter and consciousness is a convenient fiction. What you see as body and environment are not distinct entities. They are patterns within a deeper wholeness. And the bridge between them, the translator of wave into particle, potential into presence, is emotion. Once this is seen, everything changes. You no longer ask, "How do I control my emotions?" You ask, "What are they revealing about the state of the field I'm inhabiting?" Each feeling becomes feedback, each reaction a reflection. The boundaries of self begin to soften. Empathy becomes instinctive, not as moral virtue but as energetic recognition. You feel others as yourself, because at the quantum level, that is literally what they are. In this collapse of separation, even the idea of manifestation dissolves. There is no you commanding the universe to give you what you want. There is only consciousness harmonizing with itself. The external world is not responding to your desires. It is your desires made visible. You are not manifesting reality. You are remembering it. The field is already whole. Emotion is how you tune into the frequency of that wholeness and allow it to become visible through form. To awaken, then, is not to ascend beyond emotion, but to realize emotion is the language of the infinite, the way the unmanifest experiences its own reflection in form. When you truly feel this, separation collapses into wonder. You recognize that the pulse in your veins is the same rhythm that moves the stars, and for the first time, you stop trying to become the universe because you remember you already are. Integration, living as the embodied field. To understand the law is one thing. To live it, to embody the truth that emotion and matter are one, is another. This is where philosophy becomes practice and awakening becomes biology. Integration begins in the smallest of moments. When you wake each morning, before thought rushes in, there's a space, silent, unformed. In that space, your emotional frequency begins to hum. The tone you choose in those first few breaths, whether gratitude, anxiety, peace, or anticipation, becomes the tuning fork for your entire day. That frequency doesn't just color perception, it writes the code for the molecular reality your body will assemble in the hours ahead. Living as the field means remembering this. Every moment is creative. Every interaction is a transmission. You are not moving through a world. The world is moving through you. The boundaries between body and environment dissolve into participation. When you speak gently, your heart rhythm steadies. When you listen deeply, your nervous system synchronizes with empathy. The spiritual and the physiological become indistinguishable. To embody coherence does not mean chasing eternal bliss or suppressing pain. It means allowing emotion to move without distortion, meeting every feeling with awareness instead of resistance. Fear, when fully felt, transforms into clarity. Grief, when honored, becomes tenderness. The alchemy of integration is the recognition that every emotion, pleasant or painful, is energy returning home to consciousness. Suppression fragments the field, acceptance restores its wholeness. In this state, even ordinary life becomes sacred ritual. Eating becomes communion with the earth that grew your food. Walking becomes dialogue with the magnetic rhythm of the planet. The air you breathe enters your blood in seconds, connecting your heartbeat with the forests that exhale oxygen thousands of miles away. When awareness widens, you see how deeply your biology belongs to everything. You were never separate, only unaware of the unity that was already here. This awareness naturally changes behavior. You begin to choose emotional integrity over reaction, stillness over haste. Conversations become opportunities for resonance rather than argument. The body becomes an instrument of coherence, each breath an act of creation, each word a vibration added to the collective field. As you align your inner tone, the outer world responds, not as coincidence, but as resonance seeking harmony. Living as the field is not about escaping humanity, it is about inhabiting it completely. To feel joy and despair, to laugh, to break, to heal. All of it is consciousness, learning the textures of existence. The sage and the scientist meet here, in the recognition that matter and meaning are inseparable. The sacred is not somewhere beyond the stars, it is pulsing through your veins. And so the work of integration is quiet, steady, human. You feel, you breathe, you allow. You remember, again and again, that you are both wave and particle, spirit and matter, dreamer and dream. The field is not out there, it is your very presence, unfolding into form. To live this way is to become what the mystics called the bridge between worlds. Consciousness made tangible, light made flesh, and through you, the universe remembers itself. The closing revelation. There is a silence beneath all things, the stillness between heartbeats, between thoughts, between the flickers of creation and dissolution. If you listen closely enough, you will hear it. It's not the absence of sound, but the pulse of eternity itself. The same frequency that hums in the atoms of a star hums inside you. And in that shared vibration lies the most sacred truth. You are the universe, aware of its own becoming. Every molecule of your body has been other things, mountains, oceans, stardust. The calcium in your bones was once forged in a dying sun. The hydrogen in your blood is as old as time. The universe has worn countless forms, and now, for a brief moment, it wears you. Through your feelings, it studies itself not abstractly, but intimately. Through joy, it tastes its own light. Through sorrow, it learns the depth of its compassion. Through fear, it explores its edges. Every emotion is a thread in the mat, the great tapestry of consciousness experiencing itself in matter. The hidden quantum law has never been hidden at all, only overlooked because it is too close, too simple, too constant. Emotion turns into matter because emotion is matter in motion, energy folding into pattern, vibration condensing into form. You are not living inside a body that reacts to life. You are living inside the field that creates life. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every moment of stillness is the field speaking in its native tongue, the language of feeling. The mystics called it love. The physicists call it coherence. The poets call it soul. But these are all names for the same phenomenon, consciousness recognizing itself across dimensions. When you feel deeply, when you allow yourself to love without measure, when you surrender to awe, you are not escaping the material world. You are completing it. You are turning raw potential into radiant form. So when you next close your eyes, remember, the reality you touch, the people you meet, the body you inhabit, they are not separate things. They are frequencies you have tuned to through sustained emotion. The universe is responding in perfect fidelity to the tone of your being. To change your world, you do not need to force, to strive, or to beg. You need only to feel differently, authentically, consistently. The field will do the rest. Because consciousness is not watching you from afar, it is watching through your eyes. It is feeling through your skin. It is breathing through your lungs. The experiment and the observer have never been apart. And so, the question that remains is not theoretical. It is personal, immediate, alive. What emotion will you choose to become? What vibration will you offer to the infinite mirror? For whatever you sustain, the universe will crystallize into your image. This is the secret the mystics whispered, the scientists measured, and the soul already knows. You are the bridge between thought and a thing, between wave and world. You are the field remembering itself.